And with some thoughts on this, we're joined now by Wendy Cukier. She is the president of the Coalition for Gun Control. Ms. Cukier, I appreciate you joining us. You've got to be very upset with what the Prime Minister is saying. We know that you were there, fighting and one of the main proponents for this registry. And now you have the Prime Minister saying, there should be exemptions. What's your reaction?
Rifles and shotguns kill just as dead as handguns, and a rifle or a shotgun in the wrong hands is just as deadly. So we need controls over all firearms. We need licenses for all gun owners, registration of all guns. The notion that having to get a license, the notion that telling the police that you have a rifle or a shotgun somehow demonizes you is frankly quite bizarre. I mean, I have a driver's license. I don't feel oppressed or demonized by the government. It ensures that I'm responsible.
Right, but those who are against registering long guns do feel that way, as you point out. But what about the argument that, guns used in violent crimes are often illegal and that they're brought up past the border, not from legitimate hunters and collectors? I mean, that's the other side of the argument. You say they are used in violent crimes.
There's no question. There was just a report out of British Columbia that showed that in Surrey, for example, most of the guns recovered, and this is an area where there's a particular problem with violent crime right now, most of the guns recovered were rifles and shotguns. Even in Toronto, a substantial proportion of the guns recovered in crime are rifles and shotguns. It's true that rifles and shotguns are used much less frequently today than they were 15 years ago in murders. In 1991, there were over 100 murders with rifles and shotguns. Last year, it was down to 32. But that's precisely because the stronger controls are actually working. And if you look at what the Canadian Association of Chiefs of Police, the Canadian Police Association, public health groups, women's organizations across this country say, licensing gun owners, registering guns is part of a public safety strategy. The Prime Minister is simply playing to the gun lobby.
Okay, and why do you think that is? What do you make of the timing of this right now?
Well, of course, they got into a little bit of trouble over the raffles of the handguns. Mr. Brycruz's bill actually was going to allow people to take fully automatic weapons to target clubs. I think that the Conservatives know that if they introduced a government bill, it would probably be defeated. And clearly the Prime Minister's comments show that Mr. Brycruz's private member's bill is in fact a government bill.
So do you see this as the Prime Minister essentially playing to the base at a time when many people would say that, some of the base is not happy politically with what the Prime Minister's been doing and some of the quote-unquote, liberal actions that have been taken by his government? Is this how you see it? It's political game playing here?
I think there's no question. And I think that, of course, what he risks is people in urban centres, women in particular, and the province of Quebec being horrified. The other thing that's really interesting is one of the signatories to a recent letter to the Prime Minister was the president of the Alberta Council of Women's Shelters. Why? Because the tragic irony is that in the provinces where there are more guns, there are actually higher rates of gun death and injury. More women are killed with guns in rural communities in the West, and the West has higher homicide rates because guns are more readily available.
So, I mean, there is some talk that we may be looking at an election perhaps further down towards the end of the year. Would this become a major issue? Are you intent on making it an issue if the Prime Minister doesn't back down from this?
Well, the Canadian Association of Chiefs of Police has said they would strenuously oppose efforts to relax the legislation. Gilles Duceppe has been absolutely clear and unequivocal in his support for the firearms law. And on Friday, they launched the Polytechnic film in Toronto, and people should be reminded that the gun that was used in Polytechnic is an unrestricted hunting rifle. It's what the Prime Minister likes to refer to as a duck gun. As I said, rifles and shotguns are just as deadly as handguns, and they're the guns most often used to kill police officers in this country.
All right, we appreciate you joining us. We'll watch to see where this all goes from here. Wendy Cukier with the Coalition for Gun Control joining us. Thank you.
Thanks, Jacqueline.